Imagine you built this massive, high-stakes legal case against a top state official. You got everything lined up, and then a judge just throws the entire thing out before it even really begins. But the reason why has nothing to do with the evidence. It's a single, kind of stunning mistake that just brings the whole thing crashing down. So let's unpack how this major mortgage fraud case completely collapsed for a reason that really nobody saw coming.
So, what could possibly be powerful enough to stop a federal prosecution dead in its tracks? Well, the answer isn't in the crime itself, but in the person who brought the charges in the first place.
All right, let's set the scene here. The defendant is New York Attorney General Letitia James, and she's facing some serious federal mortgage fraud charges. But before a trial can even start, a federal judge makes a pretty shocking move. Case dismissed.
And here's the real twist. The judge didn't rule on whether she was guilty or innocent. The evidence, the arguments, the actual substance of the allegations, none of it even mattered. The entire case got tossed out on what might seem like a technicality, but believe me, it is a monumental one. And this gets us right to the heart of the problem. See, the entire case hinged on the legitimacy of the prosecutor herself, interim U.S. Attorney Lindsay Holligan. And the judge's finding was simple. Her appointment was unlawful. You don't have to take my word for it. Listen to what the judge herself had to say. Judge Curry called the situation unique, if not unprecedented. This wasn't just some minor slip-up. The judge is basically saying that the person with the immense power to get someone indicted, well, she never actually had that power to begin with. And here's the crucial point. If a prosecutor isn't appointed the right way, through the proper legal channels, then everything they do officially can just be wiped away. It's kind of like a contract signed by someone who has no authority to sign it. The whole document is worthless. In this situation, the indictment itself was invalid. So the big question is, how does something like this even happen? I mean, it seems like a pretty basic thing to get right. To understand it, we've got to rewind the clock and look at the highly charged political atmosphere that was surrounding this whole appointment. The timeline here really shows you just how fast all of this moved. So on September 20th, U.S. Attorney Eric Siebert resigns. This happens right after President Trump was publicly pushing for charges against both Letitia James and the former FBI Director James Comey. And then, in the wake of all that, Lindsay Holligan gets the job. Now, this was absolutely central to the defense's argument. Letitia James's legal team basically saw this as a coordinated effort. They called Halligan and others a Trump-directed quartet who were trying to indict a political opponent on what they said were baseless allegations. And it's really important to understand that the case against Letitia James wasn't just happening in a vacuum. It was actually part of a much larger pattern of investigations that were targeting figures who were seen as enemies of the Trump administration at the time. Okay, and this is where it gets even more fascinating. The very same prosecutor, Lindsay Holligan, also brought a case against former FBI Director James Comey, and that case was dismissed for the exact same reason. But here is the critical difference. In James's case, the charges can be refiled by a new, properly appointed prosecutor. For Comey, though, the clock ran out. The statute of limitations expired, which means that case is over for good. James Comey, while he did not hold back after his case was dismissed, he called the whole prosecution an act of malevolence and incompetence, and he directly linked it to the political climate at the Department of Justice under President Trump. It's a really powerful statement that just underscores the political heat surrounding these cases. And the list just keeps going. Other prominent figures, people like Senator Adam Schiff and Representative Eric Swalwell, were also referred for investigation. This just added to the perception that this was a targeted campaign. So, the indictment is thrown out. Case closed, right? Well, not so fast. What does this actually mean moving forward? Is this the end of the legal battle for Letitia James? Not necessarily. It looks like there are two main paths forward. First, the Department of Justice has said they intend to appeal the judge's ruling. And second, even if they lose that appeal, they could just start all over again and seek a brand new indictment against James, this time with a prosecutor whose appointment is completely beyond question. All of this leaves us with a pretty crucial question to think about. When something like this happens, is it a failure of justice, where serious charges just go unaddressed because of a procedural mistake?
Or is this the system working exactly like it's supposed to, protecting people from being prosecuted by individuals who don't actually have the legal power to do so? It's a real debate about process versus outcome. And in this case, the process won.